Hello, I'm Tim Smith with the Adams County Historical Society, and welcome to another Monuments Monday. And in our video today, we're continuing our discussion of Big Round Top and the significance of the things that occurred around here. And I decided that we'd stop along the slopes of Big Round Top from Devil's Den to the Big Round Top parking lot. You know, I think a lot of people that come here park at the Big Round Top parking lot, and they imagine that Big Round Top is only on the right side or the east side of the road. But Big Round Top extends all the way down to Plum Run beyond us. And the area behind me is called the Devil's Kitchen. Yes, we have the Devil's Den, we have the Devil's Slipper, we have the Devil's Bath, and this is the Devil's Kitchen. The term first comes to us as I've been able to find, in an 1898 tour book of the battle, which refers to this area by this name. And there's an 1898 photograph by William Tipton that refers to it as the Devil's Kitchen. We'll talk about that photograph in a moment. I'd like to mention that, you know, the area of Big Round Top is covered with large igneous rocks. And according to the Pennsylvania Geological Survey, this is York Haven Diabase, which is dated to 201.2 million years old, if you're into geology. And you'll see these rocks as part of what we refer to as the Gettysburg Sill for about a 30-mile stretch from Emmitsburg, Maryland, out across the area towards Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And they're only about, the sill gets to be about a mile wide. So while Big Round Top and Little Round Top and Culp's Hill are very rocky, you won't find these same rocks out along Seminary Ridge or other open areas of the battlefield. Now, the Devil's Kitchen, this area, on July 2nd, the Southern Army passed over it on their way to their attack on Little Round Top out in front of us. As a matter of fact, prior to the fighting, when Vincent's brigade arrived on Little Round Top, a company of the 44th New York, Company B, was actually sent out into this area and just arrived as skirmishers as the 4th and 5th Texas came up and over this rise of ground behind the camera. And Captain Lucius Larrabee of Company B, 44th New York, was killed in the action here somewhere near the Devil's Kitchen. After the fighting on Little Round Top, the Southern Army fell back into this area. And all day long on July 3rd, sharpshooters from Devil's Den, the slopes of Big Round Top, and the Devil's Kitchen fired on Little Round Top, and Little Round Top fired back. Now you might say, well, this area is all wooded. But we have early photographs of this area, and you can see in these photographs that you can actually see Little Round Top from here in these images. And I'm going to show an image from Little Round Top from 1888, and if you look in the distance in this direction, you can actually see the Devil's Kitchen in that view. And I have another view from the 6th New Jersey in the Valley of Death, and it's looking in this direction, and it's a mumper photograph, and you can actually see the Devil's Kitchen. So although there are trees on the other side of this rock formation, the trees are much lower, and it was a great position that was used in this sharpshooter action. And of course, if you come here, there's a path that leads from the Big Round Top parking lot over to this rocky area, and there's a path that leads down to Devil's Den from this area that you can take. And you know, the tour guides take a lot of school groups through this area because we always want to see what's cooking in the Devil's Kitchen. But you may very well see a snake. The whole area of Big Round Top is filled with large black snakes, some of them very large. And one of the stories that's associated with this particular area was written by Emanuel Bushman in 1875. This is from the Baltimore Sun, a Baltimore newspaper. And Emanuel Bushman, whose father grew up in the Bushman farm just down the hill, has this to say. The now famous Round Top, a few miles from Gettysburg, was years ago the rendezvous of a large snake. One sunny day in April of 1833, my brother with 6 others were exploring Round Top for the first time. The hill and the surroundings were covered with a dense forest. As they were ascending the west side, they suddenly came upon a monster snake, sunning itself upon the rock. Part of them took to flight, but brother and 2 others stood to see how it would end. They described it as a black snake, apparently turning gray from age. Brother hissed the dogs on it, and he thought from the appearance of its capacious mouth that it would swallow the dog. They estimated its length to be from 15 to 20 feet and the thickness of an ordinary man's waist. They threw rocks at it from above and rolled it down into its den. Father saw it before that about a mile from there at the big rocks now called Devil's Den. Grandfather saw it in his time. And Mother says the Indians used to speak of it as heap big snake. Now, I don't know about all that, but I have seen large snakes on the battlefield. And here I'll provide an image where Gary and I one day found a skin of a snake that was like 8 feet long. And I saw that monster snake on my own. So who's to say that there's not a snake that is 15 or 20 feet long in 1833? Not far from the monument to the 4th Maine Infantry is a rock on the side of Houck's Ridge in which often you can come here and see a snake. You know, when it's too hot, the snakes are usually hiding deep inside the rock. But early in the morning when they're sunning themselves, if I have a group of 8th graders on a tour, I often bring them over to this rock just on the off chance that we might see a snake. I'm sure that some of the people know in our Devil's Den book, we highlight the story of Heap Big Snake. And I often like to point out snakes on my tours. And it always is a big splash, especially with the 8th graders. But this rock right here, you got a good chance of seeing a snake if you visit the rock. Please do not poke the snakes with a stick when you see them. But there's no snake in here right at the moment, but I do see there is a snake skin. Let's see if I can reach in without getting chewed on and pull the snake skin out, or at least a piece of the snake skin. And I will personally go on the record as saying that I've never seen a 20-foot snake at Devil's Den, but I did one day see a snake in this rock, which I later measured by measuring the crack at 8 feet. So I do believe that there's at least an 8-foot black rat snake living somewhere in the rocks of Devil's Den. Perhaps as somewhat as evidence of what I am saying, we just notice as we pull the snake skin out that it is not a small snake skin. Oh. Of course, this is probably both sides, right? Wow. Remember, if you like the content we've been putting on our YouTube channel, please share this video with your friends.